very, very happy to be here today, particularly honored to be surrounded by such a distinguished panel of speakers. And of course, the whole discussion that we are going to have right now is going to be about political intervention, about how we can intervene in the political sphere. I'd just like to say that I was introduced as being not a politician. True, I'm not, but I am political even within the classroom, because a teacher, whether you like it or not, is a very political person. So with that, I would want to start the discussion. So I would probably start with Andre over there, and I'm going to move down the line. Andre, tell us about what you think is the situation either in Europe in general or in Germany in particular when it comes to, first of all, queer-friendly politicians, politicians who don't belong to the community but are allies, and there are these other politicians who belong to the community but are perhaps working against the cause. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, we see in Europe in the last couple of years. Is it working?
Yeah, it's working. Yeah.
Okay. On rise of populism, we see that on a few days ago in Italy, the far-right party is getting elected as with the best result of all parties there. Yeah. So we see in all over Europe that it's getting more complicated, more dangerous as well for queer persons, no matter if they are trans, if they are inter, if they are queer, or gay or lesbians or bisexuals. So it's getting harder in the society in Europe. That's the fact, that's the reality. And because you asked about queer politicians who works against queer topics, I would say it's a joke of history. The leader of the far-right party in Germany, Alice Weidel, is, and it's absolutely anti-queer topic. She's absolutely anti-queer topics, and she's a lesbian woman living together in a registered partnership with in Switzerland, raising 2 sons with a woman from Sri Lanka. And I would support one thing Yannick said before. It's not only about have role models or queer persons in politics. It's about queer persons in politics who support queer topics. Yeah. Yeah. That's a difference, and you can see it in some Western countries that there are queer persons in politics who are strongly against queer rights.
It is extraordinary. Akai here, of course, as many of you will already be aware, she is a part of the Indian National Congress, so she is very actively involved in politics. First question to you, Akai, would be when you decided to join the party, what was the response of the party to you personally as a trans woman? And why that party? Sorry.
Yeah. First of all, Akai joining politics was a discussion of more than 11 years. Whether Akai should join politics or not. If so, which party that she'll be going to join. There were state respective secular parties, democratic parties. But being part of the movement of social justice, the women's movement, the feminist movements, the youth movement, the class and caste and religious minorities movement, who are socially weaker section of society, I think across civil society came together, and we had almost 11 years of long discussion. Post 2009, the Honorable Delhi High Court verdict, which has boosted and said consensual sex between adults in privacy is not punishable, and the judgment we spoke about, the constitutional morality, I think the feathers and wings for the movement of sexual minorities was really so high to express our concerns, our voices that has been heard across the nation and different parts of the world. Yes, I decided to join the Indian National Congress because that party, since Indira Gandhi, the former Prime Minister of the nation, who led and stood to support the rights of sex workers and the sexual minority in particular, recognizing them as one community who are the most and least weaker section of society, who also uphold the dignity of the entire sex workers and sexual minorities, number one. Number two, if you go back to the history of India, I think from the day of independence till today, we are being part of such moments of listening to people's voices than distracting of the people's voices. And today, the crucial juncture that what we're experiencing in the name of demonetization, in the name of Farmers Anti-Act, in the name of Anti-Women's Act, in the name of Anti-Transgender Act, which was passed in the Parliament on 2020 without any consultative democratic discussion. This is against my Constitution of India. But India, as a secular nation, we want to protect the Constitution of the country. We strongly felt that there is a need to converge the unheard voices. Number two, there's a need to really converge the thoughts of similar minds of irrelevance of our religion, class, and caste, and many other aspects of it, where we are being judged today. But the movement of sexual minorities, without fear, we are agitating against all forms of social exclusion, all forms of discrimination, all forms of violence. I'm done.
Yeah. Aisha, the situation in Pakistan is complicated, isn't it? Because, I mean, on the one hand, you have certain voices who are saying, yes, we are progressive, yes, we want to include sexual minorities, and then it's a very strange way in which some parts of the sexual minorities are acknowledged, the others are not, so it's a very peculiar scenario. So tell us more about it.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah.
It's working.
It's working?
Is it working? It's working.
Okay.
It's working.
As we all know that in 2018, Transgender Persons Act was passed. And unlike what Akai has mentioned, in Pakistan we know, wait, I can just, okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So in 2018, when the law was passed and the process started in 2017, almost it was a 2 years consultative process. And I think that was the first time where the government of Pakistan came up with an inclusive approach. All the trans leaders, majority of the prominent activists and organizations were taken on board. Different stakeholders were consulted, and then we came up with this progressive law. And so today, I think this is the first international conference that I have a very different view, different things to say about my country, because previously in the previous conferences, we trans activists have been very hopeful. We have been discussing this law because it has made Pakistan one of the progressive countries in terms of transgender rights, because this law gave the right of self-determination. And then in 2020, the rules of the act were also passed, which so basically rules explain how the law would be implemented. But recently, as I think we have been talking to many of the participants about the current situation going on in the country, that the very section of the act, the right of self-determination, has been challenged by the right-wing extremists in the country. But it's very interesting that how they are manipulating with the facts. The information that they're giving is very incorrect. So the propaganda that's happening is, okay, so before I would explain the propaganda, as I hope that everybody knows that the transgender law in Pakistan, we can talk about transgender rights, but we cannot talk about other sexual minorities. I think that's a long way to go. So for us, it was the first step that at least the trans community is being acknowledged. We were working on its implementation, on creating economic opportunities for the trans community, because as we all know that in the South Asia, in Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, where we have this Hajasara culture and the Hijra culture, majority of the trans population is not educated, or they don't have access to resources, they don't have access to employment. So we were working on that, and we were very happy that at least slowly, but the government was moving in the right direction. But recently, that implementation has stopped, and now we are again going back to the zero. We have to defend our very existence again. And I think that's very painful when you have to justify your existence, your gender, every time. So I think my fellow participants are here also, and we are a little sad as well that now we are going backwards. So yeah.
Why did it stop?
Sorry?
Why did it stop? It was on. So why did it suddenly stop the implementation of it? What happened?
Because, okay, so the law is being challenged now. In the Federal Shariat Court, it is the religious court in Pakistan, and it has been challenged. And specifically, it is being challenged. So initially it was some right-wing people, but now they have been joined by Jamaat-e-Islami. They have been joined by all the religious leaders of all the sects in the country. My issue is that they have built this entire campaign on the basis of incorrect information. And I will tell you what is that incorrect information. So they have mixed transgender rights with the rights of homosexual people. And now they're using that card against us that, okay, this law will promote homosexual marriages in the country. So when you read the rules and when you read the right of self-determination, in Pakistan you can only use this right of self-determination to have the transgender identity only. It doesn't apply to the binary, gender binary. So for example, because most of the trans women, they had their male gender marker on their ID cards, but now with this act, they can, get their card converted to X. But the image that they are creating is totally different. They are saying that men would become women, and women would become men and marry the same sex.
I see.
So this is the, I can see the expressions. I mean, this is really frustrating. So this is what's happening. And now they are being joined by majority of the Pakistani population.
They're in support of this.
Yeah, there's massive media campaign going on in the country because now they're using religion with it. So the situation is getting dangerous.
Right. Shaili, moving on to you, but this is terrible what's happening. If you compare the situation in Pakistan with the situation in Nepal, and of course in your activism, the caste part is also a very, very important point. How do the situations compare?
First of all, am I audible?
Maybe you'll have to do what Aisha did, is bring it up to your...
Hello?
Yes, much better now.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay. So in context of Nepal, even the former minister just said that Nepal...
Like you've not been
Am
listening.
I? No?
Yeah, cordless is better.
Okay. Am I good? Okay. So even our former minister told that Nepal has a very good constitution and very friendly and would be one of the aspiring for all the South Asian country. I will say that is bullshit.
Oh dear.
Out loud from the panel. Because yes, there are few laws which supports facilitation in the ID card and other things, but yet the scenario is same. There is not a single person from the community in the politics. There was one person, Sunil Babu Panta, who joined Constitution Assembly as a member, and that is why we have fewer laws in the constitution. But apart from that, there is not a single person coming from the community who have joined politics, or the political parties who have facilitated them to join the politics. And the scenario is almost same in all the countries, especially in South Asia, because of the one common factor, religion. Because we South Asian are very much engraved in religion, either it be Hindu or Muslim, or especially these two religions are being followed in South Asian countries. And while talking about the intersections, Dalits are even the lowest form in the caste cadre. So they are tagged as untouched, unpure, and still kept downward, so they are not. Even today, people are killed in Nepal. I'm sure that happens in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh as well. People are killed when they try to enter temple. Recently, I think few months, almost a month ago, in India, Rajasthan, a boy was killed by a teacher because he tossed his pot, drinking water pot. 4 Dalits were killed brutally, and they had to jump in the river to save their lives, and they died in Nepal because a guy had an affair with an upper caste girl and wanted to marry her. A body is lying still in the teaching hospital since last 7 years. And parents are not agreeing to claim that body until the justice is done. So that's the scenario of Dalits in Nepal, and obviously in all the South Asian countries, especially India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Pakistan. So when we consider the other variable of gender identity in Nepal, it becomes very difficult to enter that closed space of political parties coming from, guided by Brahmical patriarchy, and go inside that and change the policies and make a very enabling environment for trans people or queer community people to come in the politics and join the politics and advocate for the right. So now what they have to do, if someone, even aspiring politicians coming from the community, what they have to do is, if they want to change a policy, they always need to go to the Supreme Court. So recently, a transgender woman didn't get her admit card despite her citizenship was, identity changed in the citizenship, and she got her admit card after Supreme Court's order half an hour before her examination.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Since after 2007, Supreme Court told Nepal government to table same-sex marriage policy in the constitution, but that never got passed. The bill was drafted, but then again something comes up or the other because the agenda and the personal benefits doesn't match with the political parties, and they don't give that much of address. And since there are no person from the queer community in the parliament, either in the provincial or in the federal, the bills never get a step ahead rather than being drafted. So that's the scenario of political environment in Nepal. So at least after listening to our fellow panelists, I can say that there is someone at least trying within the political party, try to make that changes in the community. But in Nepal, the scenario is people are not even let to enter the political party. So our struggle is still going on to enter the political party. And then the next struggle will start. So that's the scenario of Nepal.
It's better than Pakistan.
I agree.
Going back to Andre, whenever there is an election that is announced, all the political parties, they publish their manifesto in which they set out the policies and all of that. So when we look at Germany, how much of queer content would you find in an election manifesto? And actually, that is the same question for all the panelists. So how much of a representation do queer issues get in political manifestos before an election?
Okay, I think, wait, I do that this way as well, or?
No, it's working.
It's working? First of all, what I forgot in the first round, that I'm feeling very honored to meet so much inspiring queer activists here from every country in South Asia these 2 days. I think it's especially for me as an European queer activist who is now on the stage to secure freedoms. It's so inspiring to talk to all of you these Tuesdays. I want to thank you for that, for this opportunity, also to the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. To your question, it depends highly on the party. So the Lesbian and Gay Association does in primary to every election such an electoral check of queer politics. I would say the Greens and the Liberals are very much in front of queer topics in Germany. That's a huge issue in the manifesto, starting from to have a protection of discrimination in the fundamental law and in the Constitution of Germany, going on to an action plan, a national action plan against homo and transphobic and or hate crimes, and going on to a self-determination law, which now is in the making in Germany. So that's the Greens and the Liberals. I think on the second place, maybe it's the left and the Social Democrats. Yeah. It's still important, but not such important as in the first two parties. And in the end is first the CDU, the party of the former Chancellor Merkel, and then, of course, the far right. So, and yeah, you can...
The Greens are there on the top?
It depends on the year, and on the election, and on the state. Sometimes it's the Liberals, sometimes it's the Greens. So the two trans persons who are in the German federal parliament are in the fraction of the Greens. So.
Yeah, okay. So when an election is announced, you manifesto. So how do those manifestos compare?
First of all, there is a lack of information, lack of education. There is so much of political immaturity. There is so much of illiteracy on sex, gender, and sexuality to the existing political movement that are being led by cis men who follows and practices patriarchy and power. I think we as the transgender and sexual minority community, our prior responsibilities are to really to educate our political leaders, the rulers of the state and federal system nation, which is strongly urged to feel so. Because being part of the drafting committee policy for the state of Karnataka to develop a transgender policy, and being part to study the status of sex workers, to be part of the Supreme Court NALSA verdict to really brief and see what exactly is all about the Supreme Court verdict of 2014, which recognized transgender are equal citizens before the largest democracy of the world. Then what I really found was there is so much of illiteracy for people not to speak the word sex, penis, vagina, intersex, or having said our own sexual act that we all perform in such a dignified manner. Now the question here, before writing a policy before the pen and paper, they feel so much of hesitance. They feel so much of annoying within, and they're also having some sort of phobia to use the word sex itself. I think what we did, you are illiterate, you please don't write manifesto, we write for you, you please print in your books. We did the same thing, and that was accepted in 2019, the Lok Sabha elections. That was also done in the state elections for the state of Karnataka. I think this is a sort of, not today's over, tomorrow's over. It's a long movement. And we as the leaders of the movement really are relying on the upcoming generation to educate our issue without compromising on any grounds, but ensuring that I'm not here to be an antisocial element for the world, but my existence, my identity, my sexuality is something called eloquence, and you have no right to decide my identity.
Election manifestos in Pakistan, and what prominence do queer issues get there?
You know, I was just thinking to myself right now that when I decided to participate in this panel, I had a very different talking points at that time. But as I explained earlier, very recently the entire situation has changed in the country. After the law was passed, we were working with the political parties and the parliamentarians to include the transgender rights in their political manifesto. And I'm very happy that one of my fellow Pakistani trans activists, Nayab Ali, is sitting in the audience. She was the one who also, competed in the last elections in the country as an independent candidate, and from a political party, which was a new political party, not the mainstream one, But she did that. And we also have other trans activists. We have Bindya Rana in Karachi. She also contested for elections, but as a private independent candidate. So this year we were very hopeful that in coming elections we would be able to sensitize and advocate and lobby with the mainstream political parties to at least give a reserved seat to a transgender woman, or at least give the ticket to her so that she can contest on merit. Because you need to have a political party's ticket to compete for the elections. And I think we were very hopeful that this would happen. But right now, as I said, that things have changed. And they are changing rapidly because of this massive media campaign going on. So that is also the reason, because normally when I speak on the panel, I'm like, very fluent. But right now, I'm also calculating that, I'm not sure, because before flying to Nepal, I had a very heated debate on a talk show with one of the with the main parliamentarian of the Jamaat Islami who has moved this entire, So I think I'm also calculating in my mind that how things are going to happen. But as I have always been a very optimistic person in my life, and this is what me and my fellow trans activists were also discussing, that we are not going to give up. We are still continuing, and I think even after receiving so many threats, we are there. We are appearing on the media. We are sitting with these petitioners and the right-wing extremist people. We are confronting them. So I think that our voices matter, and we would try our best, and we are trying our best to protect this law. So right now our first step is to protect the transgender law in Pakistan, and then of course in the coming elections we hope that the manifesto would include the transgender rights.
Yeah, Shaili.
Thank you, Nilandhari. First of all, when I was contacted to join this panel, I was not sure that we will get so intense in the talk. So, धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद FNF लाई. And since this is really a nice time to have this talk, since in Nepal the local level elections just went in April, and in November we are having federal and provincial elections. So this type of talks is really needed to get the things in the hype. While talking about manifesto, we live in a country where even the toilets are binary. So we don't have, if a transgender woman wants to use the washroom, she has to think twice, they have to think twice that which washroom should I opt for. And why is that, and why we don't see the agendas in the manifesto is, even in the constitution, the community people are tagged as gender and sexual minority. Though I don't get it why, because they have not counted and they didn't count in the last census as well. So why are they using the tag minority? What's the evidence or base for that? But still we are counted as minority, and that is why we are not in the vote bank. We are not the vote bank in any elections, at least for their share. So that is why we never enter the agenda. And to enter the agenda, especially for the political parties, unless either you challenge their privilege or enter their vote bank, you are never going to get in the manifesto. In the local level elections, I have studied over than 300 manifestos, and I didn't find a single manifesto which has at least even touched the causes or issues or agendas of queer community. And I'm not sure if that is going to, and I'm a bit sure that the same is going to happen in federal and provincial level as well. Though we are having the talks with the parliamentarians, foreign parliamentarians, having the regular dialogues and discussion that at least we could start. You don't need to enter all the agendas at once, but you can start one step at a time. People tell that citizenship bill is very progressive. It's not. If a transgender woman wants to change her gender identity in the citizenship bill, she has to get the documents, and at times a lot of government officers ask, a male government officer asks a transgender woman, he wants to check physically.
Oh God.
Those incidents we have heard. So that gets very complicated when we go in the political scenario, because that's not their urgent agenda, one. Second, we are not their vote bank. And since we are not their vote bank, even if they don't keep us in the agenda, they know that who they need to target to. So we will work on discrimination. That is always their agenda, because people don't get discriminated only on the basis of sexual or gender identity, but get on the basis of class, geographical region, caste, other variables are there. But for gender identity, that's not their vote bank. So we never entered the manifesto yet, but we are hopeful that in federal, provincial level, one or two major political parties might at least touch on one or two points, issues of the queer community, and in the coming days, all the political parties will follow the path. Let's see, being hopeful.
Yeah, well. So I'm going to start with you for the next question. You obviously talk to a lot of younger members of, people of your age, or perhaps even younger who belong to the community. You are sufficiently politicized. What is the extent of politicization that you see among people who are younger than you, and what kind of discussions are they having? And again, same question applies to everybody.
That happens because no matter how much progressive we say we are always guided by the environment we live in. We are being brought up in this Hindutva religious concept, and there will always be saying that being Hijra is not religious enough. Even I am scared to talk to my dad that I'm a queer. My dad doesn't know, but all the people in the Birgans know. In my hometown knows, but I never had that courage to talk to my father that I am a queer. And since last 3 years, he has been pressurizing me to get married to a boy.
No.
Obviously makes sense, because he doesn't know, and it is better if the girl child or the daughter get married at a very good age. So I have crossed that age 4 years ago.
Congratulations.
So I have crossed that age 4 years ago.
Congratulations.
So I don't know how much more I'm going to sustain that, but I'm trying to, because I don't want to get married to a boy, at least now, who is straight, heterosexual man coming guided by Brahmical patriarchy and telling me your duty is to stay in the four walls and cook food for me while I earn for you. So I don't want to do that, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get married at all. But yes, in even in the younger generation...
I've done it, you can too.
Yes. I think I'll talk to you privately for the tips and trips.
I'll give you the tips. How to stay away from marriage.
I'll get that privately from you, and then we can make a committee and share it with everyone.
Yeah.
So yes, in younger generation, yes, there's politics, because the political parties are yet guided by the same Brahmical Kshetri or the Rajputs in Indian culture, what we say. So the majority are them. In Nepal, just to fulfill the reservation quota, what people do in political party, they elect Dalit women so that they can fulfill 2 reservations.
They tick 2 boxes.
2 boxes at once, and at times they do Madhesi Dalit women, so they tick 3 boxes. And then give the remaining 2 upper caste from what Hindu
So it's basically tokenism.
Yeah, obviously, basically tokenism. And people don't understand, even those who are using that reservation quota they don't understand that if they don't talk against that, at the end of the day, they will be competing against each other. Because there is just 1 seat and there are 3 candidates, and they will be competing against each other. So they don't understand that, and they think that at least something is better than other, and I understand that as well, because someone who has not been given even a plate of rice for 3 days and suddenly is given a spoon of rice, that's a lot for the person. So I completely understand their mindset as well when they get the seat. But even after going to the party, they don't have that courage, because they don't have that grab, that resources to talk to the main leaders that now we need to increase this. And at the end of the day, those who are especially interested to go in the politics and want to do good are guided by the same ideology, because they are on the daily basis seeing, observing, looking, and normalizing that in their daily behavior. So even in family, if we talk about the family, no matter a man tells how much progressive he is, but when he reaches back home, he will always say to his sister or mother, "Khana paskidinu ta malai."
Yeah, the attitude doesn't change.
So even if you say you have that social capital, but at home you are doing the same thing, so where the change starts? Because you are some way normalizing the same thing, at home at least. And everything starts from the home.
True.
So that is why that political influence can be visible in younger generation, which was there since ages and generations till today, even in younger generation, and that really saddens my heart.
What's the question?
So the question is basic. The question is, when you are meeting younger members of the community in Pakistan, how aware are they of trans issues? How much are they engaged with it? Basically, are they aware of it at all? And what are you doing to facilitate that discussion?
See, I think today we live in a time where people have access to information, the social media. We live in the era of social media. So today the trans youth, they are aware of what's going on. But as I mentioned earlier, that majority of the trans population in Pakistan, they are not educated. So for them, it is still difficult to understand the difference, sometimes to understand the difference between gender and sexual orientation.
But sorry, what about the reach out programs? You go out and meet?
Yeah, we go out to the grassroots level community. We build their capacity, and that is what we have been doing for the past years. And we also try to, we activists, we are basically the bridge between the government and the grassroots level trans community. We sensitize and build the capacity of the government institutions to develop laws and policies which are gender sensitive. And on the other hand, we reach out to the grassroots level trans community nationwide to build their capacity, to educate them about their rights. So after 2018, when the trans law was passed, we were working on its implementation. We are still working on its implementation because trans people who are living in the big cities, for example, Islamabad, Karachi and Lahore, they are more equipped with more information. But the trans people who are from the backward areas, who are not educated or who cannot read the law and understand the technical language, so for them we reach out, and we engage the community leaders in every city, so that we can easily penetrate in the grassroots level and sensitize them. But I would also like to mention that now with this negative campaign going on in Pakistan, again, the social media is now, going against us. It's being using against us, because these videos of all these, I don't know what label should I give to them, but people who are spreading misinformation, their videos are going viral. And this also makes me very upset that many trans people who are not educated, who are innocent, they are being manipulated, and they are also joining these right-wing extremists. And they are also now making videos, and as we know, TikTok is a very fastest spreading medium. And we are seeing videos from trans activists who are famous, who are, who have named their have gained their name in media. They are also using their fame, and they have huge followers, and they are also supporting the petitioners, and they are also speaking against this law, because now so I was
that is suicidal.
Yeah, that is. And when I'm listening to my friend from Nepal, I am not able to compare it with Pakistan, because right now the situation in Pakistan is horrible. So we are, and especially the activists that are at the forefront, like myself, we are being misgendered on national television
regularly
by these journalists, by these so-called religious leaders. So I think again, once the situation would, I think, settle down, we will again have to start our capacity building program with the grassroots level community from the scratch. So I believe that we are going back. I think we are going back to 2017 now.
Terrible. Okay.
I would rather think the reverse. I'm a transgender woman. I belong to the sexual minority community. If I don't address the poverty of the nation or the globe, if I don't address the educational access to the common people of this world, or if we are not going to address the employment crisis, the caste discrimination, the gender discrimination, the polarization happening in the name of caste and class and religion, the economic inflation, the gender injustice, the social injustice, until we address the social burning issues. To give an example, the Citizenship Amendment Act was passed in the parliament to target Muslims of the country's largest democracy.
Absolutely.
And also talking about the politics of anti-conversion bill.
Absolutely.
And has been passed, ensuring that the minorities have no voice in the largest democracy. As a sexual minority activist, I do not want to compromise the notion of fascism and the notion of patriarchy. As a sexual minority, I need to condemn that and ensure I stand with my Muslim, I stand with my Dalit, I stand with my physically, person with disability, sex workers, and many oppressed voices of this entire society. Until that comes to my mind, it is difficult for me to educate my tomorrow's youth. It is so difficult because I know I'm living in a world of patriarchy. What my parents teach, my youngsters are learning. What my teachers teach, my youngsters are learning. Without addressing these parents and teachers and largest society, how do I even talk to my youngsters?
Okay.
The entire system of this world needs to change for what? To accept your diversity, to accept your existence, to accept our sexuality, to accept our gender identity. If not, I think we are going to live in the cages of people. I think I also observed, as being part of my organization called Vandade, which is a Kannada word for convergence, we speak dignity, voice, sexuality of the gender non-conforming children, the transgender man and women, the intersex and the sexual minority community. We as community are really heterophobics. Example, if I take an example of Nupur, Nupur could be a heterosexual woman, and if they are judging us and we automatically react to her, you are heterosexual, you doesn't know anything about us. Yeah. I think practicing phobia within the context of heterosexual community and the sexual minority community, until we converge together to have such concept of discussion, I think this is not to bring or build any sort of political maturity. I think being part of the political movement, we need to be sensitive enough to speak from child rights to the constitutional rights. to speak the politics of the United Nations Human Rights Council rights.
So make it more intersectional.
Very intersectional.
Yeah.
I think the intersection terminology is so good,
Yeah.
but in practice, sitting in a room, how many of us are very much comfortable to go to a Muslim women and to eat with them,
Yeah.
to share with them? That is something that disturbs me a lot, and I want to be very honest, it does. Thank you.
First, I want to second that. Especially, we need allies.
Yeah.
The queer community needs allies, and that's why I'm glad for every heterosexual cis person who joins such a conference or joins the Brides worldwide and stand with us for our rights, for freedom. That's so for utmost importance. For your question, I have to maybe to tell about my own youth. I think I grew up very privileged in Germany. So, okay, on the countryside, it wasn't easy with my father. My mother said to me, "Oh, child, I know that since you are 9." But in the meantime, I recognize in the society and also in the young queer society in Germany and all over Europe that there is a rising interest in queer politics again, which is due to a race of hate crimes.
I was going to come to that.
For example, just that you have the number from 2020 to 2021 in Germany, we had a raise of about 100% of hate crimes recorded in Germany. So we had a few weeks ago an attack on a trans man right by sides of a bride. He died 1 week after. On the day of his death in Bremen, a trans woman was attacked by 15 boys between 14 and 16 years who supported each other and had to bring to the hospital. And on the same day, a staff member of the Lesbian and Gay Association state chapter in Berlin was attacked 700 meters away from me when I was walking hand by hand with a gay man. So, and I'm thinking twice in the meantime. I'm thinking twice whether I'm holding a man's hand in public, even in a city and downtown of Berlin, which is always called as the shed light of freedom in the world. So, and that's the situation. And this is why young queer people have to change their mind also a little bit. So I'm not responsible that Section 175 in Germany, which criminalized homosexuality, is falling. No, were other persons, early 90s. So I'm not responsible for the introduction of the gay sex marriage in Germany. No, that were other persons. But I'm responsible that we, Europe, and also all over the world, we secure rights which we achieved already and support communities in other countries to achieve these rights. That's the important thing, I think. The LGBTIQ community is highly about solidarity. It's not only about solidarity to your own circle of friends or your own country. You must not stop talking at your country's border. It's all linked together. So, and when, for catching up, Mr. Klein's hope that we do not need this conference in 10 years anymore, we see all over the world, in the States, in Canada, all over Europe. Take Poland or Hungary as a worst example. Take Russia. We still need this conference even in 90 years, because when you achieved a right, you must secure that you have this right also in 10 years. And that's the big lesson of the current situation in the world.
I agree, I absolutely agree. I would move on to you next. And, you know, I am very interested in the way in which the media covers these issues. And the media tends to take a very easy line, which is to make it sensationalist and to basically, you know, hike up the drama and not to concentrate on the serious, the unsexy part. How responsible would you say the Nepalese media is as far as focusing on these issues?
So national media, okay. National media has never been responsible in anything apart from Brahmical issues.
Wow.
So when there was a Madhes movement going on, people from southern region took the whole movement and they blamed it on India for the blockade. So that's so because they can't think and they address, even today I am tagged as Indian in Nepal because I don't look like a Nepali.
Oh, wow.
Though the question is who is Nepali,
Yeah.
but I don't look like what the mainstream Nepalese told that what Nepali looks like. So Nepalis should be a bit in the hilly region, should be wearing such clothes. But since we share our culture,
So there is a
South,
normative Nepali.
yes, so I'm still, though even my parents have the citizenship by descent, so we have been living here since ages, I'm still tagged Indian. And that is why my father chose Chaudhary for my surname, while he uses Agrawal for his name,
Wow.
so that I don't have to face that discrimination of being an Indian.